Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My mouth. All right, good morning. First thing, which it looks like our agenda is missing some information. I would like I need to change our agenda and then I'll take a motion, but if somebody would add a public comment right after we reconvene, I'd like to do that. But first thing, that'd be the first thing on our business today is to have that motion. If I could get it from you guys.
So moved.
I got a motion. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Sherry, will you call it?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you for that.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. So we've got approval. We need to reconvene as the County Board of Equalization, so maybe I should have done that before I did the consent, probably, so we'll do a do-over. Motion to reconvene as County Board.
So moved.
I've
Second.
got a motion by Schmidt, a second by Commissioner Aaron's. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Redo consent agenda. Can I get a
So
motion?
moved.
Thank you. Second? Got a motion and a second. Sherry, call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then we have our Board of Equalization hearings. But before we do that, I'll have an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here or on the phone who would wish to speak to non-agenda items? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to our County Board of Equalization hearings. Good morning, Carla.
Good morning. Our first hearing is scheduled for 10 o'clock. It's under Shabab Lubavitch of South Dakota Incorporated, and they'll be attending by phone.
All right. Was everybody able to get to the right place in their packets? What page are we starting on, Carla?
Okay. They're on the line.
What page are you starting on, Carla?
I am starting on page 35.
Thank you. All right, good morning. Can you hear us?
I could hear you. Thank you.
All right, first of all, our assessor is going to go ahead and give it their presentation on the appeal, and then you'll be able to testify.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Carla.
Our first hearing is scheduled for 10 a.m. It's parcel number 283.24.00.A100. It's under the name of Shabab Lubavitch of South Dakota Incorporated. The legal description is Tract 1, Woods Edition, City of Sioux Falls. They are currently applying for tax exemption under South Dakota Codified Law 10-4-9, which is a religious exemption. After the report of investigation, I determined that this property is taxable, 100% taxable. And the reasoning is based on It's a bare lot. And under 10-4-9, if the lot is owned, if it's a lot and it's owned by a religious society for the exclusive purpose of parking vehicles, that would be considered exempt. But this is just a bare lot. I did talk to an attorney from Woods and Fuller representing the client, and he was concurring with my investigation.
All right, anybody have any questions for staff? All right, on the phone, sir, you're the appellant.
Yeah.
Can you state your name and address and then go ahead with your testimony?
Mendel Alperowitz, 2900 West Old Yankton Road, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 57108.
You can go ahead with your testimony, sir.
Yes, we were just applying for a tax exemption as we purchased this lot for the purpose of building a synagogue, a religious facility.
Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
That's it at the moment. We have no other use for the land, and we're not using it for any other purposes at this point until construction begins.
All right, does anybody have any questions for the appellant?
Sir, when was your construction date set to begin?
We don't have a set time yet. We're hoping that we'll be in a position to begin later this year, but it depends on several factors.
Is the property used for anything else right now? I mean, for example, in income producing activities or rented out or anything like that, or is it just sitting barren?
No, it's not used for anything. It's an empty piece of land.
Yeah, and just so the commissioners know, this piece of land is just down the street from my house. I'm very familiar with it.
All right, anything else you'd like to know? Any commissioners have any other questions for appellant or staff? If not, I'd consider a motion.
Madam Chair, I don't know if this is going to pass or not, but I'm going to move to give the exemption, and the reason being is because I think when a church purchases a piece of land and in this environment is waiting for construction to occur, is that's part of the process of being a nonprofit and offering a benefit to society and being a church and all of that. And otherwise, we set a precedent of church properties being taxed, and in this instance, the property is not being used for any other purpose. So that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second. I'm going to second that for discussion purposes.
All right, further discussion.
Joel, I agree with you from the standpoint that they have every intent to build a synagogue on this structure, and they haven't set a date yet, and it does go off the tax rolls. But it is owned by a religious organization. And I halfway agree with you that my leanings would be that we should allow them this situation. Now, if that went on for another year without any activity on there, then I may want to change my vote. But right now, I will support this motion.
I just have some questions, Carla, if I could.
You bet.
So there's the huge tract of land on South Louise that Avera owns. Now, the hospital itself is tax exempt. The training facility that's further south is not. What about that excess land? How is that land taxed differently than those? I mean, is that exempt? Do you know?
I believe it's agricultural land.
You think that all that's still zoned ag?
Yeah, and I think it's being valued as agricultural land.
And how is this ag land?
This is not ag land, this is a lot. So to
Okay.
answer your question, without a little bit of investigating, I would say it's taxable. The parcel that you are questioning.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this, I can help answer your question.
Okay.
To the extent of, this property is literally just down the street from me. It's on the south side of 85th Street, just to the west of Walmart.
Okay.
Couple properties over. It's in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Basically, it's kind of an oversized lot, and and then from reading the file, my understanding is that's where they want to build the church and a daycare, or I should say a synagogue, excuse me, so.
It's been vacant for 2 years. They purchased it
Yeah.
in 2021, so it's been vacant in 21, 22, 23. I mean, the law is very clear. It's not being used as church purposes. It's not a parking lot.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna support the motion. I get where everybody's coming from. I just think because there's a statute that's on point, I'm gonna be voting no on it, but, go ahead and call the question.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
No.
It dies. All right, we didn't get 3 votes.
Right.
Do you need a substitute motion?
Well, I'm torn. I mean, I voted no, but I'm torn about it because the statute does have some vagueness in it,
Well,
but they're not using it for anything whatsoever. It's just sitting there.
it's just sitting there.
Have a lot of these properties sitting out there as vacant land and they're being taxed.
Okay. For that reason, then we'll just leave things as it is. Yeah. And so I would need a substitute motion.
I will make that motion to put this back on the tax roll, primarily due to the fact that it has remained vacant for, how long did you say, Carla? How many
They
years? now?
purchased it in September of 2021.
So it's been on vacant for almost 3 years, or 2 years for sure. And that we deny their application for tax exemption.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it for discussion. Carla, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
When, in your estimation, as the assessor, when does a church get to claim that exemption? Is it like on day one of construction, or is it only after certification of occupancy is issued?
My recommendation would be as soon as construction started.
Okay, thank you.
We did that very similarly with Sioux Falls Christian School. Once the construction started, then you granted exemption that year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion? Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
I don't want to vote this way, but yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Motion carries. Move on to the next one.
Better hurry up and build a church, or build a synagogue.
Exactly.
Our next hearing is for an exemption. It's parcel 270.94.03.028, owned by South Dakota Achieve. Its legal description is Lot 28, Block 3, Midland Estates Edition. After investigation, it's the assessor recommendation for 0% exemption or 100% taxable. Reason being, very similar to our last hearing. It's a bare lot. They're applying under the charitable exemption, which would be 10(4)(9.1. Similar language in the law and used for charitable purpose is exempt from taxation. So they own it. So it's owned by a public charity, but it's not being used. It's currently sitting as a vacant lot. With that, I'll stand by for questions.
All right, anybody have questions for staff?
How long have they owned this? Marla?
They purchased it November 1, 2022.
Okay.
Carla, I see in the packet here, and I think I understand your argument, but I want to flush it out.
Sure.
10(4)(9.1, property owned by public charity and used for charitable purposes. So I assume, given the highlighting there, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but your argument essentially to us is you don't believe that barren land is, or I shouldn't say barren land, just not developed or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, is not being used for a charitable purpose. Is that, am I estimating your argument there correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
Unless there's a testimony saying they're doing some type of activity on it. And a good example would be, I apologize, I don't remember the name of the organization, but it's bare land and they have soccer fields. And so it's used for charitable purposes because they're doing something on the land. So that particular property would be granted exemption under SDCL because it's being used, they're doing something.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other questions, is the applicant or the appellant, I'm sorry, is a present for this one?
He's shaking his head no.
No, didn't get him on the line? No, okay.
All right, if they're not available, I'd consider a motion.
Madam Chair, given the fact that they've owned it and there's no activity, I would say that I would vote to deny their application for exempt status.
All right.
I'll second that, Madam Chair, to get this thing going.
Thank you for that. Further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think I'm troubled by how vague the statute is, and I wish these people would have showed up though, but they didn't. So maybe we could have got some more information to support something else, a different decision than what I think it will be. Thank you.
I agree. But with that, Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppin,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Is the appellant here for our 10:20 hearing?
Yes.
All right, great. You could stay where you are, sir. We'll let Carla give her testimony, and then you can come on up and we'll hear from you. Go ahead, Carla.
Our next hearing is parcel number 280.07.01.002C. It's located at 1601 East 69th Street in Sioux Falls. Legal description is Lot 2C, Block 1, Shadow Creek, second addition to the city of Sioux Falls. They are applying for tax exemption under SDCL 4-10-4-9.1, which is a charitable exemption. My report of investigation and my recommendation, based on the information that was supplied to staff, was to exempt the property at 7%. 7% exempt on the land and 7% exemption on the structure. That was based off of they showed who was located within, that's a suite, it has several suites, and it's being rented to these organizations. So what is owned and occupied and used exclusively by the owner is approximately 7%. So they have 1,387 square feet that is owned by and occupied by Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The rest of the property is being rented out. They supplied us with their rent rolls. Statute states owned and used exclusively by the owner, but it also makes reference about being rented. So to further clarify, if a property from a charitable, benevolent, or religious society has income, it's rented, it's taxed. This particular appeal or the hearing for this appeal was vetted not only by myself, but state's attorney, and they concurred with my investigation. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
All right, anybody have questions for our staff?
Carla, can you just articulate what formula you used to come up with the 7%? And I assume they're opposing that and they think it's like 37? You just do the math out loud for us?
Sure, the 1,387 square feet that is owned and used exclusively by the owner. So that square footage divided by the total rentable that was supplied by the appellant. So 1,387 divided by 19,596 is 7%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the appellant is present. Sir, would you like to come up? And just before you start, will you state your name and address and then go ahead with your testimony?
My name is Paul Gorley. My address is 1400 East Edgewood Road in Sioux Falls. I am the property manager for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The FCA is located at 1601 East 69th, and they are charitable, educational, and religious purpose organization. They have exempt status under the 501c3 Internal Revenue Code, and they do qualify, so that 7% is correct. However, they do lease space to other organizations and entity that also qualify for the exempt status under this code and South Dakota law. In the past, the Department of Equalization has included the square footage tax exempt tenants for the property value. So in the past, we did get that 37%. And 2 years ago, it was recalculated and taken away. So we feel that's inconsistent, unfair, and contrary to the applicable law. So the relevant SDCL that we're reading is 10-4-12. And it reads, if property is owned by any charitable, benevolent, or religious society described in 10-4-9 and 10-4-9.3 is used partly by such charitable, benevolent, and religious society for charitable, benevolent, or religious purposes, and the remaining part is occupied, rented, or used other than charitable, benevolent, and religious purposes, the portion that is so occupied, rented, or used for the other purposes shall be taxed as the other property of the same class is taxed. So I'm sorry for that thick, dense language, but we feel that those nonprofits which occupy the building owned by this nonprofit should not be taxed. Does that make sense?
It does. I just want to process the statute in my head, so
Yep.
if you give us a second here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Go ahead. Is there anything else you want us to know? I mean, is that your main argument as a statute? Do you know, Carla, do you know if is that the case? Was a larger portion of that tax exempt in prior years?
Yes, in previous exemptions, a larger portion was granted tax exemption. It wasn't until 2022 when they appealed their value and they distributed rent rolls. That was when there was a switch in the percentage. We determined it was rented and not just being utilized by some charitable organizations. It was being rented. And this has been vetted by two of the state's attorneys from Lincoln County. And they
No,
came.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm reading that differently. It says, and the remaining part is occupied, rented, or used for other purposes. Then it's taxed as the same class as tax. So, I don't know. Commissioner Aaron's, are you?
Madam Chair, I like to geek out on these tax cases because I used to handle some of these, and there's a Supreme Court case called the Lutheran Outdoor case that construes SDCL 10-4-12. Frankly, I don't think it's helpful in this instance because it's so murky. It's not murky, I mean, it's clear what's going on here. I guess here's my question, if I may, Madam Chair, for Carla.
Go
is
ahead.
I understand that you changed how you calculate this based upon the fact that you learned some information back when they appealed their exemption. But what calculation were you using before 2022?
Calculation, it would have looked very similar to that. We received that from the application. We did not receive that. So
Okay.
the only thing that they ever submitted to our office was this.
So the county historically, and I understand why, but I'm just laying out some facts here. Historically, the county was using the sticky note calculation method,
Just this.
using that first. And then when you came upon this information that they're receiving all this rental money, then you changed how you tax them.
That is correct.
Okay. No, Paul, Paul is maybe disagreeing a little
May I?
bit.
What, I think it's implied that when we provided a rent roll that said, for example, 37%, that the remaining of 100% was for profit and we were willing and able and paying taxes on that. So it was probably irrelevant, in my opinion, that a complete rent roll was provided because it was implied that the balance of the building was occupied by for-profits and we were paying taxes on that.
Yeah, Paul, you're basically saying the numbers don't matter. It could say $1 million in rent, or it could say 1,000. It's implied from that 63%
Yes.
was still rental income. And that was implied from the application itself,
Correct.
right?
Commissioner Landine, you asked if I had anything further to add.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading the statute and I guess I'm agreeing with you.
The
Unless
only,
somebody can convince me
the only
differently.
other thing, I'm sorry, please.
So, not having a Juris Doctorate degree or anything, but are we saying that the rent that are coming from other nonprofits should be considered to the same portion of your activity as well?
Yes, that's how we're reading the law, and that's how other nonprofit-owned buildings in Sioux Falls that we are friends with are being taxed. So we feel we're being taxed unfairly and inconsistently as to our peers in the nonprofit world. And I could point to examples of nonprofit-owned buildings that are leasing to other groups, to both for-profit and nonprofit tenants, and are tax exempt. And so it's inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, Madam Chair, the way I read the Lutheran Outdoors case is that the standard is in a mixed-use facility, which this is, you allocate pro rata based between religious, non-religious, that's the language of Lutheran Outdoors. In this case, it would be between nonprofit and profit
Okay.
usage, but you are renting out to other nonprofits.
Yes.
And so the use, I don't think it's not only implied, it's expressly stated, the use is for nonprofit reasons, even though you receive rent from those nonprofits. So I think the test is what those organizations are, not how much rent they're paying you. Because basically then, we've imposed an ad valorem sales tax through the property tax system if we use rent rolls in order to base our property tax on. And I don't think that's the standard under this Lutheran case. I think the standard is what is the use allocation. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where I'm at, Madam Chair.
No, and I agree with you. I don't think the amount I don't think that has anything to do with it. And I think it's expressly provided for in 10-4-12. So I would like a motion to amend the
One-
exemption.
One more
Unless
question.
Carla has a different percentage. How did you come to your 37.6? Can you tell us what those other nonprofits are in your building?
Sure. I think Carla has that rent roll, which lists the entities' names, and I would have it, I have it here. Grace Church, NAMI Leadership South Dakota, Collision Abiding Savior, and then the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And those square footages equal 37%, or that 30.
37.6 or
Correct.
something like
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So if I'm a commercial property owner and I rent my property to a nonprofit, is that portion of the building that I'm renting to a nonprofit eligible for tax exemption?
No.
No,
No.
because you aren't, the owner is not, if you're in the owner and you're
So
not a healthcare
so just
charitable.
to clarify in my mind, I'm not trying to, so because you own the building as a charitable organization or a nonprofit organization, this allows you to do that. Okay, I'm wrapping my arms around when we talk about consistency.
Can I get a motion to approve the exemption for 37.6%?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I've got a motion from Commissioner Aaron's. Do I have a second?
Second? Did you need a second?
I do.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Sherry, will you call the roll? Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
No.
Commissioner Landine? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, next is our 10:30. And
No
is there
RSVP.
No one's here for that? All right, just go ahead then. You can be as brief as you want to be.
Parcel number 099.51.28.B3A0, owned by, well, the application came in under Faith Presbyterian Church, and that was November 1. It has since sold, which was not an indicator to why I am, my report of investigation is to have it be taxable. The primary reason for it is under the religious exemption regarding whether, if it's a bare land and it was not used for parking during church services, an appraiser went out and it was determined that it was not being used for parking lots, so that was my determination on indicating that the property would be taxable. And it has since sold. It sold in December of 2022 to private.
All right, anybody have questions for staff? If not, can we get a motion, please?
I'm very familiar with this. This is right down the road. It has, I don't know if they've had any church services there at all. It was used for a daycare center for a while. And right now, it is being reconverted. I think it's going to be a steakhouse at some point in time. is
This
what-
one's in Perry Township?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right down the road, right outside of Lennox.
Can I get a motion, please?
Vote to deny their application.
Is that a mo-
Sec-
Thank you.
Second.
All right,
Madam Chair, just for clarity.
Go ahead.
Carla, this is for the structure, or this is for?
This is just bare land,
This is just the bare land, thank you.
just exempt.
I just wanted to make clear.
They're using it for a garden.
Sherry, we call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's,
No.
Commissioner Poppins,
I've got to ask a question, Madam Chair, if
Go
I may.
ahead.
So on this application, they're saying structure 600,000, that's why I'm confused if
Yeah.
what we're looking at here is, this is strictly bare land, but they're,
Right, so
was
they
separately
they also,
parceled?
yep, they split out the parcels, so when they did their application for exemption, it was both of these two, and here's the structures. So I think when they did their application, don't wanna speak for the applicant, but they used
so was,
these figures on both
do we have,
applications.
sorry, is there a map?
There is.
Give me a second to get to it.
Go
you d-
back and just
Yeah.
hit, yeah.
You said somebody said they were using that for a garden?
The one
Do you know
darker,
what,
the darker portion is they've used consistently for a garden year after year. The
That's,
church itself has that particular lighter side, which is right next to Jerry's property.
So
but this
let me
is-
ask a question
Yep.
for clarification. Is the part that we are talking about today used for a garden?
Well, the question would have been at the time prior to.
It would have been as of
1st.
November 1,
Right? So,
and that's when the application was.
and that portion was used for a garden?
By the church.
No.
Okay.
it's used by the
I
restaurant.
can't
All right.
determine that. There was nothing there in November.
All right.
There wasn't a garden.
All right. Sherry, will you continue to call the roll?
Commissioner
Yes.
Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then do we have an appellant for a 1040 hearing?
So our next set of appeals are for owner occupied.
Okay. Do we have,
oh.
we're early, so,
I saw somebody walk in. I don't know if that's the,
yeah.
Person, though.
Yeah, there was a lady that walked in here just a few minutes ago. Did they RSVP, Carla? Go ahead, Carla.
Our next appeal is parcel number 282.13.01.004. It's owned by Alex V. Chachenko, located at 6113 South Dubeline Avenue in Sioux Falls. They are requesting owner occupied status. The assessor's recommendation is no change, as the owner did not meet the March 15, 2023 deadline per South Dakota Codified Law 10-13-40. There were two applications. The first slide, I apologize. Mr. Chachenko purchased the property in September of 2022. There were two applications sent to the appellant. First application went out December 8th, 2022. The second application went out January 12th, 2023. This did require a new application as it was a new construction. The assessment went out showing that the property was not currently listed as owner occupied. I have it highlighted in yellow. And then at the very bottom of our assessment notice, it talks about the owner occupied qualification. In March 28, 2023, the application came in for owner-occupied status. We sent a denial to the applicant that stating you did not meet the application deadline of March 15th, 2023. On here, we have indicate that they can appeal that decision to the county board, which we're hearing today. Some statutes relating to the deadlines and the occupancy dates are also attached. With that, I will stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Carla. Any questions for staff? All right. Is the applicant or the appellant present? Hearing none, seeing none, I'd consider a motion.
Carla, how late were they?
The application came in March 28th, 2023,
And the deadline was?
March 15.
They dated it March 28th.
Okay. Vote to deny.
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, discussion?
Madam Chair, I'll just say, everybody knows my disappointment with how this statute is written and the fact that we as a county have our hands tied and not allowed to offer any relief. I don't like it, but we're stuck with it.
That's right.
I don't disagree.
I would echo that as well.
We call the roll, Sherry.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes. Motion carries. Do we have an RSVP for 10:50?
It will be by phone.
Okay. Can we see if we can get them on the line? All right. Hello. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi,
Oh.
this is Raphael Neff.
All right. Thank you for the call in, sir. Our assessor is going to give her presentation on the appeal, and then you'll have an opportunity to testify when she's done.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Carla.
Our next appeal is parcel number 098.49.57.2020. It's owned by Raphael Neff, located at 48357 281st Street in Canton. The request by the appellant is an owner-occupied status. The assessor recommendation is no change to the classification. The owner-occupied application did not meet the March 15th deadline per South Dakota Codified Law 10-13-4. The appellant purchased the property in March of 2022. On the certificate of real estate value, there is a portion on there if it's going to continue owner occupied. There's a space on the certificate of real estate value that the applicant can fill out, and therefore it would continue to owner occupied. That portion of the certificate of real estate value was not filled out. So staff sent out two notifications, one December 8th, 2022, and another one January 11th, 2023. So then when the owner-occupied application wasn't fulfilled on the certificate of real estate value, we sent two notices to the applicant. We also, in February of 2023, sent out a review of notice. So before we can remove any owner-occupied status, we have to notify the applicant or owner that we're removing it. So this is what this form did. We were stating that the property has transferred and the owner did not submit a new application. So that was sent February 16th, 2023. The end of February, we sent out a notification through our assessment notice stating that the property was not owner occupied, and they had until the 15th to submit their application. We did receive an application. It was dated April 3rd, 2023, in which we denied. And we sent out a denial form stating your application did not meet the March 15th deadline, and with the information on how to appeal that, that denial status. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Any questions for staff? All right, Mr. Knapp,
Yes.
go ahead and go ahead with your testimony.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. I would have liked to come there in person, but this particular moment wasn't possible, so I appreciate the arrangement for a phone call. And yes, we're new residents in the state of South Dakota as of last June 2022. Also, this is our first home purchase, my wife and I and our children. And I thought that this process was part of the home purchase process, and that it would, I didn't realize that there was any action that was necessary. So the documents, or the two letters that I received, didn't get read very carefully and got put into a file as already having been handled, not actually looking at them closely. So now I'm aware that status actually had to be acted upon in order to retain the owner-occupied status, and it makes sense now. So that's why I submitted that appeal, because we indeed do live there. It's our sole residence, and I think it makes sense to continue that way. So I'd appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Thank you for your comments. I know we do have a statute in place that sets that March 15th date as a hard deadline that, I mean, we just voted on one just prior to your hearing, that we're not really able to change that, whether we like that statute or not. That's what we have to follow. And it's unfortunate that perhaps the people that were helping you purchase that particular home maybe didn't go into enough detail with you about that, so, and that happens a lot.
Raphael, did your realtor explain that as one of the home buyer processes and give you an application at the time? Because it's.
No.
Okay.
No, I was
Unfortunate.
not even aware of this.
Well, you'll have it covered for next year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion, please?
Move to deny the appeal.
Thank you. Got a motion, can I have a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes. Thank you for attending, Mr. Neff, and I'm glad you know what it is now. Next year.
Okay, I thought that the law provides provision for this, for an appeal, and not an automatic denial.
Yep.
And you can apply next year. And
Yeah, he was just mentioning he appreciates that it allows an appeal and not an automatic denial.
Right. All right, have a good day, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right. Do we have an RSVP for the 11 o'clock?
By phone.
Okay, can we see if we can get them on the line? Unless somebody wants to take a break. All right, we'll see if we can get them. All right, I have the appellant on the phone.
Hi, yes.
Hi, we're gonna go ahead, if you're ready, we'll go ahead with the 11 o'clock hearing. Our assessor will give her presentation, and then we'll allow for a little bit of questioning with the commission, and then you'll have an opportunity to present your testimony and answer any questions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Carla.
Our next appeal is parcel 240.11.09.004C. It's owned by Kaylin Marie Schott, located at 305 Scott Place in T, South Dakota. Ms. Schott purchased the property in June of 2022. Her request is to grant the owner occupied status. The assessor recommendation is no change to the classification. Owner did not meet the March 15th deadline per SDCL 10-13-40. We sent 2 mailings for owner occupied status, so we sent 2 classifications. The first one was December 8th, 2022. The second mailing we sent, the application on January 11th, 2023. This did need a new application for owner occupied status because it was previously a fourplex owned by one owner, and a plat came in and they split out each unit, so therefore a new application for owner occupied status was needed. So we sent the 2 applications to the applicant or to the owner. We also, in the end of February, sent our assessment notice, which the assessment notice was indicating it was not owner occupied, and it had some statutes regarding the owner occupied status. So that's the third notification. The application came in March 24th, 2023. And then we denied the application stating it did not meet the March 15th deadline. So we sent out a denial, and on the denial, it said if you disagree with this decision, then you can appeal it to county board. Some laws and references. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Anybody have questions? All right, Ms. Schott,
Yes, I'm here.
you can go ahead with your testimony.
No, just with being a new home buyer, like homeowner, I just wasn't aware of all of those aspects. And I did try asking around and everything like that, and just nobody was aware of it. And there's a lot of scams that just go around, so it's all information that I used when buying the home, so it just all didn't add up to me basically. So that's why I didn't meet the deadline.
Ms. Schott, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Joel Aaron's here on the commission. I'm reading your appeal, and you said you got the letter in the mail and you thought it was a scam. You had never heard of it. Your parents had never heard of it. I think where I'm coming from, in an effort to make sure that people act on these notices that our assessor's office send out for the future, can you just kind of tell me, what was going through your mind when you read those documents and you got them and it had the phone numbers for the county on it and all that?
Yeah, to me, I just kind of skimmed it, and I just didn't understand any of it. That's why I went and asked my parents and some other people at work and stuff like that. So I guess I could have called the phone numbers, but I didn't necessarily think of that just because nobody knew what it was, I guess.
Sure. No, I understand. I'm just trying to figure out how we can make this, more easy for people in the future, moving forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the appellant? If not, can I get a motion, please?
A move to deny.
Thank you. I've got a motion. Do I have a second? The second from Commissioner Poppins. Sherry, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes,
Commissioner Landine?
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Schott,
Yes.
thank you for attending today, and you'll get your paperwork in and done, and then you won't have this problem next year, I'm assuming.
All right. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Madam Chair, before we move on, this really is a frustrating thing to sit here because it's an obligation of the real estate person to make sure that all new property owners are alerted to the fact. They give them the proper forms they're supposed to. We had this homebuyer education program for years, and that was one of the main things that we were addressing at all times. And when I hear individuals say they're unaware because they purchased the property, that reflects back to me on that real estate person, whoever it was, by not providing them, and that's part of their responsibility. So I'm sitting here thinking, now, where did they, is this an excuse, or did they not really do their duty? So,
Well, and she's a young person, Commissioner,
Yeah.
and she said she was trying to get herself set up financially, and that's a lot of money out of her pocket.
Yeah.
And she was sent the notices, though, and I think, when people don't take advantage of calling the phone number, I think, we got to get the word out there somehow,
what if
right?
they have a question, you call the office when you get these things, so, but it is, anyway, enough said.
We have a RSVP on the 11:10 hearing. She's here. All right. Ma'am, are you ready to proceed? You can stay right where you are here for just a couple minutes, and we'll have Carla give her presentation, and then we'll have you come up. Thank you. Go ahead, Carla.
Our next appeal is parcel number 280.29.00.026. It's owned by Hone Living Trust, located at 505 West Joslyn Drive in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This property was transferred in March of 2020. The appellant is requesting owner-occupied status. The assessor recommendation is no change to the classification. The owner did not occupy the property as of November 1, 22, nor did they meet the March 15th deadline per SDCL 10-13-40. The applicant purchased the property in March of 2020. It stated on the certificate of real estate value that they were not going to own it, or excuse me, they were not going to occupy it, was not going to be their primary residence. So we sent a review that we were going to and this was in February of 21, so this is for the 21 assessment year, that we were going to remove owner-occupied status. So we removed owner-occupied status, and then in May of 2022, whether it be the applicant or a representation or representative for the applicant, requested that we do a mailing for the owner-occupied. So we set in place to send a mailing, and we tagged it May 5th, 2022, to send a notice, and we sent a notice December 8th, 2022, and then again January 11th, 2023. So 2 notices were sent to the appellant for owner occupied. The assessment notice went out in the end of February that it was not owner occupied, stated the law. The applicant came back in April 4th, 2023 with an application. On that application, they said it would be their principal residence as of January 28th, 2023. So we sent, you can see here, it was dated March 1st, 2023, but the mailing came in actually the 31st of March. So we sent a denial that we were going to deny the application. It did not meet the March 15th deadline, and they had the opportunity to disagree and appeal our decision, so that's why we're here today. With that, staff will stand back for any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for staff? All right, if not, ma'am, we're gonna come on up. Right where Carla's standing, actually. Need you to speak into the microphone, and if you would first start by saying your name and address.
My name is Nancy Hone at 505 West Jolin Drive, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 57108.
And what would you like us to know today, ma'am?
I don't know, I can see that I don't know why I'm here, because I can see that you have rules, and I understand this. I was a homeowner in the Twin Cities for 46 and a half years, paid my taxes, I'm a good little girl. I throw myself on the mercy of this commission, because I'm 74 years old. I have no family whatsoever. I moved from 5,000 square feet on top of my parents' 67 years of stuff, and I prayed to God every day I wouldn't die. It's so stressful. Saying Jesus loves me 24 hours a day. So I got here finally on January 28th, and the amount of paperwork and mail that has indulged on top of me has been so big, and I did tape the thing on my computer, and it fell down behind the computer, and all of a sudden I realized, well, isn't this supposed to be now? And life has been very overwhelming, so I just plead mercy. I was here a week, and I noticed a mass in my chest, which I've been working on with natural health. I'm a natural health consultant, and it's a full-time job all day long, all day long. So I just throw myself on your mercy. So then they called me and said that they didn't accept it, but I could appeal. But I can see the appeal is useless. I'm hoping that you will have mercy. That's all I can say. I'm sorry. I've paid my taxes forever. It's a mistake.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody have any questions for our appellant?
Yeah, I just got a comment, Madam Chair. I mean, ma'am, thank you for, coming here and making your appeal. To a certain extent, you have a point about making the appeal and our hands being tied. But there are some instances, maybe not here with yours, where mistakes in the process are made, the mail, whatever. And that's why, the state says you can appeal this, because sometimes mistakes get made in the system and it requires review from all of us. A question I have for you is, were you previously occupying this property yourself and then then you put the house in trust?
No. My father was a World War II Marine fighter pilot. He died at almost 100 in August of 19, and he left it to me. So from that moment on, I was trustee. He had everything in a trust, so I was a trustee, and so I began moving, kind of, and so for 2 years I moved. There have been 4, 5, 6 Penske trucks. I brought the last truck receipt if you want to see it, to make sure I am resident there. So I've been moving. So no, I have not been a resident, and I did not put it in a trust.
No, I believe
In
you.
a trust.
Believe you 100%. What I'm trying to figure out is, so your father was getting the owner-occupied exemption here, and then I'm trying to figure out the timeline.
He lived there since 2020. He purchased it in 2020.
Okay, and
He
then,
lived there until he died, except
when did he pass away?
August 27th, 2019.
Okay, and then you did not immediately occupy the property then?
I lived in Twin Cities for 51 and a half years. I owned a
Okay.
home 46 and a half, always paid my taxes.
Okay, so that's where the gap of time is. You
Yes,
came
moving.
back.
Moving back. I grew up in Sioux
Right.
Falls, right.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
So I just throw myself on your mercy. I can't even tell you, I can't even find my hairbrush. I'm using an old broken hairbrush. I can't find
Well, thank you for becoming
I
a South
can't find my
Dakota
birth
resident.
certificate, which I need to get a driver's license.
Understood.
So I apologize. I know you got your rules, but I just throw myself on, I can't afford extra taxes. It's been an expensive move.
Yep.
Actually, you have to look at it in two ways. You missed the one. You can apply next year and take advantage of the break. So it isn't one and done. You delay 1 year is what it amounts to.
So 2024, though, I have to pay full.
You will get your tax owner occupied break.
Not till 2025, then, right? Right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
That
you're
is-
you're denied.
That is correct. I thank you for moving to South Dakota. Unfortunately, our legislature has made this statute with this hard deadline, not really given us any wiggle room unless maybe there is
I
a,
understand, but you shouldn't have had me drive all the way down here then. That's what's not fair. You should have just denied and said, don't come. So thank you for letting me be here, but it caused extra stress for me. Thank you.
thank you for appearing today, ma'am. Can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'll have to offer a motion to deny, just because of the state's stickiness on these rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Now reluctantly.
I've got a
that.
second from
Oh,
Commissioner Aaron's. Sherry, will you call the roll?
excuse me.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. All right, next one, Sherry. Anybody want a break?
Are we moving into are these just straight up appeals now?
These are straight up appeals
Okay.
next.
And we are still a little ahead.
Do you have an RSVP for 11:20? Are you here for the 11:20? 11:31, okay.
This appeal will start on page 94.
Do we have an appellant?
No RSVP.
Okay, then we'll need to wait until 11:20. And on your equalization agenda.
Ladine? Yes. Okay.
Ladine, our assessor will give a presentation and then you'll be able to come up. If you want to pass stuff, you can maybe hand it to our auditor and we can pass that stuff down while Carla's giving her presentation. Go ahead, Carla.
I'm trying to find the page. It'll start on page 129.
Thank you.
It's parcel number 281.33.10.026, located at 8208 South Spice Hill Circle in Sioux Falls. That's the wrong one, sorry.
28071.
Oh, there we go. This is our 1120, correct?
11:30.
11:30. Okay, it's parcel number 280.71.00.103D, located at 5416 South Mariah Place in Sioux Falls. It's owned by Ladine Batchel. It's a townhome, one-story, built in 2000, has 1,095 total living area square feet. You can see the property details on page 129. Some assessment history, tax history, photos, sketch. On page 132, you can see side-by-side comparisons of the subject property with the three comparables. The three comparables are good comps. They're in the same general location. Comp number 2 is smaller and it's an older sale. Comp 3 is a duplex. They're very similar to the subject property. The overall conclusion on the three approaches to value, the subject property is being assessed at $236 a square foot. Our cost comparables are coming in between $231 and $266 a square foot. The market is indicating a market range between $208 and $297 per square foot. The map is showing where the subject property is located in blue and the three comparables. Comparable 3 is just south of the subject property. The other two comparables are located right within the same complex as the subject property. The assessor is recommending no change. The value is within the cost and market approaches to value. With that, staff will stand by for questions.
Anybody have questions for staff?
Hey, Carla,
Yes.
I'm just anticipating here the gist of the appeal. So just to make sure, this is their appeal packet. By making sure I'm lining up their appeal with the presentation you're giving. it looks like the gist of their argument is that you guys used a twin home as some of your comps as opposed to a fourplex. There's a difference. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of insight into why you use those comps the way you did?
Right, the reason why we use those comps, because they have an attachment. They are not a standalone unit, they're attached to another unit or two other units, one on each side. This is an end unit, only has one attachment, so we felt a duplex is comparable to something like that. It has one other attachment.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? All right. Ms. Backville, if you want to come on up. Then just state your name and address on the record, and then go ahead with your testimony.
My name is Lidine Bachtel at 5416 South Mariah Place, number 4, in Sioux Falls. And I thank you for your consideration today. I do appreciate you taking this time. I'm questioning the appraisal or the assessment because of several different items. There was a 30% increase. It appeared when I was doing some analysis of all of the units on Mariah Place that they were all increased 30% across the board without consideration of size or anything additional. It was just a 30% increase. The unit at 5410 South Mariah Place, unit number 3, sold for $195,000 last fall. My unit is assessed at $319,000. It's quite a difference for approximately the same square footage of unit. The unit that's right next to me has been for sale since December, late December, and recently lowered to $249,900. They cannot sell that unit at this point. They haven't been able to even get a offer as from what my information is. The twin home that was used as a comparison is a little bit larger unit. It has a larger deck. It has a walkout basement. Mine does not have a walkout basement. In addition, I question why that unit at $375,000 was assessed at $321,671, which has larger square feet, and this is only and that was $2,369 more than my assessment for a lot nicer place. It was built out in above average, where mine was average to below average. Per Forbes home, the average cost to build a 2,000 square foot home, not a multi-structure unit, was $204,420 for 2023. And I've included a copy of their website on that. That's $102 a square foot, which is a lot less than what the assessment is. Our association does not have any additional amenities. There's no clubhouse, there's no exercise room, there's no pool, it's just land. The land itself is basically all you can do with it is look at it because it's drainage for the condominiums to the south and east of us, and it's drainage for Central Church, which is north and east of it. And Central Church has recently paved a large area, so we are going to have even more runoff. We have 3 drainage areas in that area with a large drain pipe underneath. So our land is basically costing us more than what we can use it for. My unit's 23 years old. And newer units seem to be assessed at a lower rate. The twin home that I mentioned is 5 years newer. There are also 2 identical properties right on Mariah Place, right in the unit right next to me, one on each end. One of those units is assessed at $294,500. That's over $25,000 lower than mine. And the other unit at the other end is at $311,812. So it makes me question why those units that are almost identical, almost mirror images of mine, are so much different. Our association is next to I-229. We have a lot of traffic noise. Magellan has a natural gas pipeline right across the street. And our land values actually increased from $22,538 to $41,824, an 86% increase. There are 3 unfinished lots in our association area that are owned by Velvan Construction. Last year, they had an assessment of $30,585. This year, their assessment is 0. And I question why they would be assessed at 0 and ours increased 86%. I did a little bit of a comparison, which I did not include in your packet because I just did it this morning. But mine increased.
If you set that down here, they can see what you're looking at.
Okay, thank you. The 5410, one that just sold last year for $195,000, is assessed at $253,880, which is 130% over what it sold for. Number 3, which is right next to me, is assessed at $287,980, which is a mirror image of the one at 5410. They have it for sale for $249,900, which is 115% if it sells for that, 15% more than the sale value. I've listed mine at $319,302. The one right across the sidewalk from me is $294,500, and the one on the other end of that unit is $311,812. The 5412 South Cornell, the twin home that I was talking about, is assessed at $321,671, which is an 86% decrease from what the sale value was. I estimated 150 a square foot times 1,500 or square feet of unit, which, as she indicated, my square footage is less than that, would be about $225,000 for an average built. Cost of land, even if using the $41,000, would be $266 or $266,000. That is considerably less than the $319,000 that was assessed to me. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question for Carla. Carla, on those adjoining units and the ones that are just right there, if they're not selling, I mean, is there something that you know about those sales that makes those not good sales to use?
So I heard this was an appeal to local board. Local board made no change. There were 3 particular homeowners, I believe, that appealed, and all were addressing properties that have sold, and they were giving sale prices and unit numbers. And when I got back and I saw some appeals going to county, I reviewed the entire complex on properties that have sold. And the newest, so the ones that we are indicating on our comparables, other than that, no other sale was newer than 2020s. And those were the open market sales. So I'm not sure on the 5410 Mariah that sold for $195,000. I'm not sure when that sold or if it was on an open market. I was going
Late
to
November.
actually.
That was late November of last year. I actually included a copy of that in my packet.
So Carla, what would, if you know,
Yeah.
what was the date of sale on the comps you used? Just, were they all in the last year?
So the first comparable number 1 was June of '22. The second one was May of 2020, so it's a couple years older, but it was in the same complex. so we thought it was relevant. And the third comp was in March of 2022. So if the appellant is using a sale after November 1, that's not a value indicator for the 23 assessment year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of looking at this at the surface level and saying, why don't we just all use Mariah Place addresses in order to value Mariah Place addresses, right? As opposed to bringing comps in from the outside that have a little bit of different structural value.
Yep, and 2 of the comps were from the Mariah Place.
Okay.
Comp 1 and Comp 2 were from the same complex.
Okay,
The
yeah, that's the
third-
Coramel Place and the Bitterroot West.
Correct.
Bitterroot is not in our complex.
I'm-
The first 2.
I mean,
Comp
I'm
1 and
looking at the 5410 complex and the values that we have on Parcel Browser. And I don't know if those are updated values. I think they are updated values.
Should be.
I mean, they're lower. They're-
Right, so some of the units are 1,000 square feet, some are 900, and some are 1,300. Some have basements, some have basement finish, some garages are larger, decks, patios. I mean, that all is attributable to the value in itself.
Just, I heard a little bit of disagreement between the parties here. Ma'am, you're saying that Bitterroot address that
That's
the
not-
county used? Where is
That's
that
not-
located
I-
at?
I have no idea.
I can
Okay.
show you where it's located.
No, I mean, I take your word for it, but I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the reason for the dispute on the comps.
Right.
I think this thing kind of comes down to comps for me. That's why I'm trying to figure
bet.
that out. Yeah, how far away is that from you, ma'am?
I
Don't
don't,
know.
I do not know.
Okay, all right. You're just saying that's not in the complex?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess my biggest question is why some identical units have such a difference. They have the same size garage. They have very similar square footage.
To
And they
get-
have basements that are finished at about the same amount.
I'm looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd make the following motion. I move to value the land at 35,000 and the building structure at 250. I don't know if I'll get a second, but that's my motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Carla, it definitely, when I pulled up 2 of these parcels and one that's sold and one's under contract, again, some properties have been selling for over asking price, so the actual selling price we won't know, but there does seem to be some discrepancy between how we're assessing these properties for some reason and that, so in lieu of not having the accurate information, I'm gonna lean toward the side of caution and agree with the appellant. But we need to look in these areas and see what's going on, because we're
The
definitely,
area or the complex or,
well, the first 2 are definitely, ma'am, would you mind sliding so I can get the house numbers? Yeah, the 5010 and the 16, both of them have come up and they did not, the one sold for the 195, or that was the asking price, I was just verifying. So there's something that we gotta fix, so I'm probably gonna, side on the, appellant's caution side, so.
Thank you for that. Any other comment or discussion by the commission? All right, if not, got a motion and a second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes, motion carries.
I thank you very much for
Thank you, ma'am.
listening to me.
Thanks for being prepared.
Thank you.
All right, can we circle back to our 1120?
Page 96.
Thank you, Carla.
Actually, it's 94. Page 94.
Go ahead when you're ready.
The next appeal is parcel number 281.33.10.026. It's located at 8208 South Spice Hill Circle in Sioux Falls. It's owned by Jason Stevenson and Sarah Curry. It is a single-family property, one-story, built in 2014. It has 1,694 square feet. All of the other pertinent data is in your packet. Assessment history, tax history, photos, sketches. On page 98 is the subject property with the three comparables that we chose. They're great comps for this particular appeal. They're the same area, same size, and same age as the subject property. The lower level also is similar in square footage to the subject property, although comp 3 does show 200 more square feet of lower level finish. The subject property has a pool. No other comp has a pool. What we did for the three approaches to value, we showed the subject property with the pool price per square feet and without. Currently, the subject property is being valued at $327 per square feet. Without the pool is $305. The comparables indicate a valuation between $284 and $307, so without a pool, they're right in line with the cost comparables. The market is indicating a price per square foot between $351 and $407. The assessors are recommending no change. The assessment is below market value. Comparables do not have a pool. After deducting the pool from the subject property, the value is within the cost range. Comparable properties are within 1 to 3 years older than the subject. So we're making a recommendation of no change. We also include a map of where the subject property is located in blue and the three comparables in red. So they're all within the same neighborhood as the subject property. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for staff? And the appellant is not present, was not going to appear by phone either?
No RSVP from the appellant.
All right. I consider a motion.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes. That motion carries. Our next hearing is scheduled for 11:40. Did we get an RSVP for that one?
The 1140, which is Charles Schaefer, parcel number 281.60.07.014. They are accepting the assessor recommendation. There was a correspondence in our mailbox this morning. So they are gonna accept the assessor recommendation, land value at $116,544, the structure value of $667,138 for the structure, so a total assessment of $783,682.
Thank you for that, Carla. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Our next hearing is scheduled for 11:50. Did you get any RSVP on that one?
They will be in person.
All right.
Our 12 o'clock is on the phone, and he also indicated that they would be accepting our recommendation.
Okay, and they are on the phone?
No, they are
Can we-
requesting by phone.
Can we get them? See if we can get them?
That's who?
Would
Hyde,
be number 13 on our agenda. Did you get something in writing indicating
right
that?
here, he indicated April 3rd. He stated, yes, that would work for him on the recommendation, but he also is requesting to be in attendance by phone.
Okay, well, we'll see if they're available, and if not, we'll probably take a recess here.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Are we able to take up agenda item number 14, or are those contested hearings? I'm just looking at it from the agenda and I can't
Yep.
tell.
The 1210, the
Yeah.
exemptions, those are not contested.
Can we modify the agenda, Madam Chair, and just,
Well, right, I'm wondering, I
Or
mean, is there a reason those couldn't have been on the consent?
yeah.
Because they're new applications, so they should
Okay.
have some sort of
Okay,
recommendation and
well,
approval.
while we're working on getting those other folks on the phone, why don't we take up item 14 on our agenda?
Madam Auditor and I discussed prior to today's hearing that I would go ahead and read the ownership name, and then the requested and investigated amount of percentage, and then everything could be. Okay,
Okay.
Sorry. to
and it would be
interrupt
one motion.
you. Okay.
Okay, so we have the 1150 on the phone?
Yep,
All right, can you hear us?
that's the noon one.
Yes.
12 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is the noon one.
I think I'm for noon. Yep.
Yep, all right. Do you, our auditor, or, excuse me, our assessor has indicated that you were accepting her new recommendation, is that true?
That is correct.
All
With
right.
that, I'd give a motion to accept the new recommendation from the equalization officer for 172,044 and 1208886.
Second.
I got a motion and a second, any further discussion? All right, sir, is there anything else you wanted us to know about the property?
Nope, not at all. I just thought I would join
Okay.
in case there's any questions, but nope, per email, Austin and I were on the same page. That's great.
All right, sounds good. Sherry, you call the
All right,
roll.
thank you all.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Yep.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. All right, so. Did we do 12?
The 12 o'clock, are they going?
No,
to-
did we
That
do
was
number
12.
12? No, that was 13.
12 will be appearing, or
That's the in-person at 11:50.
yes, that is correct.
Okay, so then let's take up item 14. There's nobody appearing on these.
No.
Okay.
The first application we have under the name of Faith Presbyterian Church. They are looking for exemption under religious. It's my recommendation to grant their exemption at 100% for the land and 100% for the structures.
Move to approve.
Second.
Hold on,
Sherry?
hold on. So what was the exemption?
100% for the land and 100% for the structures.
This is the
Okay,
new one.
so who moved?
I did. I made the motion.
Second. Understand.
Okay, Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Next one?
Our second application is under Lincoln County Rural Water System Incorporated. It's parcel number 100.50.54.D400. They are granted exemption under 501c3. It's a pump station So we're granting or recommending 100% exemption on the land and 100% on the structures.
So move, Madam Chair, approval.
Second.
Got Schmidt with the first, Poppins with the second.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Our next application is parcel 200.50.58.001. It's under Canton Economic Development Corporation. They are looking for exemption under SDCL 514.23. After the report investigation, I am recommending to have the land be 100% exempt.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Our next application is parcel number 280.07.01.003D, owned by Sioux Falls Christian Schools Association. They are looking for exemption under SDCL 10-4-9.2. After an investigation, and my recommendation is to grant exemption, 100% exemption on the land and 100% exemption for the structures.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, please?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Thank you. Our next application is parcel number 280.50.12.012. It's under the name of Wonders Evangelistic International Incorporated, USA. They are requesting exemption under SDCL 10-4-9. After an investigation, it's the recommendation of the Director of Equalization to grant 100% exemption for the land and 100% exemption for the structures.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and second, please?
Second.
I've got a motion by Poppins, a second by Schmidt.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Our next application is parcel number 281.19.00.001. It's owned by Avera McKinnon. They are granting or requesting exemption as nonprofit according to South Dakota Codified Law 10-4-9.3. After the investigation, I am recommending to have the structures, the land be 99% exempt and the land be 99% exempt, so 1% taxable.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Sherry, you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Our next application is parcel number 281.27.05.002. It's under the name of Home Builders Association of the Sioux Empire. They are requesting exemption under SDCL 10-4-9.2. After the investigation, it's the assessor's recommendation to grant exemption 5.3% exempt for the land and 5.3 exempt for the structures.
I'll make the motion here since they're my neighbor. So
Thank-
moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Sherry, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Our next application is parcel number 281.78.00.20AA. It's under Koth Ministries Incorporated. They are requesting exemption under SDCL 10-4-9, which is a religious exemption. After the report and investigation, I am recommending that 100% of the land be exempt and 100% of the structures be exempt.
Thank you. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Our last exemption is parcel number 282.05.01.001. It's under the name of Avera Health. They are requesting exemption as educational under healthcare, under SDCL 10-4-9.3. After report and an investigation, assessor's recommendation to grant 99% exemption on the land and 99% exemption for the structures.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion and a second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Then we will circle back to item 12. Are you Mr. and Mrs. Ruff? All right, are you ready to start early? All right. Our assessor will give her presentation, and then you folks will be able to come up and testify about your property. Go ahead, Carla.
Our next appeal is parcel number 281.17.05.019. It's a property located at 7516 South Ridgestone Drive in Sioux Falls. It's owned by Greg and Marcia Ruff. It's a single-family residence, one story, built in 2008. It has approximately 2,850 square feet of living area, 2,140 of living area in the basement with a walkout. The detailed information shows more in regards to the information on the subject property with the assessment history and tax history. We have pictures, sketches. Our three comps show the subject in comparison with three comparables that we found. Felt the comps are good. They're in the same location and they're the same age and size as the subject property. The subject property does have a new roof in 2022. Comp 1 does not have a walkout, but the rest, the subject property and the two other comparables, have walkouts as well. Currently, the assessment for the subject property, we are showing an assessment per square foot of $349. The cost comparable with the comparables that we're supplying for you today have a cost range between $341 and $393. The market is indicating a market range between $391 and $479 per square foot. The assessor is recommending no change. The assessment is between cost and the market value. You can see where the subject property is located, and the three comparables are all located within the same neighborhood as the subject property. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Carla, what pages are these?
That is page, actually, I went into just the commission agenda, and
Do
I
you have
just,
the page numbers on here?
yeah, that
Oh.
says page 6.
Gotcha.
I can,
Well,
don't have that page number for you, I apologize. I can get that, just a minute.
I found it.
You found it, okay.
I've kind of ended up in the middle of it at page 200. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for staff? If not, folks, you want to come on up?
I apologize. I thought you had an overhead that I could show.
It's right in front of you. So it's that camera that's up on the ceiling. So
Thanks, Carter.
if you put it under that, it will.
Thanks, you guys.
Over there.
It'll
And
show.
on our
Right.
screens.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. First of all, we built our home in Boulder Ridge.
Can you do, just for the record, can you just pull the mic up and I need you to state your name and your address and then go ahead with your testimony.
Okay. Marcia Ruff and Greg Ruff, 7516 South Ridgestone Drive. What else did I need? Is that good?
You're good.
Okay, all right. So, we built our home in Boulder Ridge before Prairie Hills was even a thing, and we didn't build a Taj Mahal. We built a home that would be a place where we could host our children's families when our girls grew up, and we made sure we had enough bedrooms and bathrooms because we wanted them to come home for holidays and vacations later, not to show off or host parties. All of the homes that I have for comparisons are from Sioux Falls with the Harrisburg School District. And the first one is 5604 Grand Prairie Drive. And that has the same number of bedrooms that we have. Ours are 2 above and 3 below, and theirs are 3 above and 2 below. And they have a wet bar, whirlpool tub, sink, and 4 full baths. And we have 4 full baths, 2 fixture baths, 3 sinks, a wet bar, no whirlpool. We have 2 gas, electric, gas fireplaces. They have 1 gas fireplace. They were built in 2003 and we were built in 2008. Their proposed assessed value is $749,000.
Ma'am, how much was the one with the whirlpool?
The one with the whirlpool was $749,000.
Okay.
Whirlpool tub.
Whirlpool tub? Okay.
And the second one I have here is 6805 Heather Ridge Avenue South. And I guess the square feet, 4678 square feet. And ours is 4990 square feet. But that also doesn't include their built in 2021 enclosed deck with glass around it and insulated. It says that there's a rate of 20 on however they assess it. I don't know what that means. But they have a concrete patio that's 2340 square feet, which is kind of a sport court or a basketball court. And they have core floor right there in their home. As far as the bedrooms, they have 3 above and 3 below. They have 3 full baths, 3 sinks, 1 whirlpool tub, 1 2-fixture bath. They have 2 gas fireplaces like we do. And they're on 0.84 acres, and we are on 0.44 acres. Their assessed value is $747,000. And the third one is 1409 Heather Ridge Circle West, and they're on 0.434 acres. And they were built in 2007. They have 2 bedrooms above, 2 bedrooms below. They have 4 full baths, 2 2-fixture baths like we do, 2 sinks, 1 wet bar, 1 whirlpool tub. And they have 2 gas fireplaces like we do. And they also have geothermal heating, which I think is a little more expensive than our boiler or whatever kind of heat we have. And their assessed value is $795,000. Our assessed value is $900 and something $1,000. And if you think about Prairie Hills, if you're comparing just because we live there, you think about their wet bars. Just picture one in your mind, a wet bar in Prairie Hills. What's that going to look like? Well, this is our wet bar. We have a sink. We have a utility refrigerator, microwave, and a card table as where our people sit. Coffee pot, correct. And then when you think about the back patio of a home, think in Prairie Hills, okay? They've got a lot of hardscapes. They've got fire pits. They have very large areas. That's our back patio. And I think that our houses are more comparable to the ones that I showed you than to homes in Prairie Hills. And I guess, do you have any questions or?
Does anybody have questions for the appellants?
When you put your new roof on, how much did it cost you?
It was hail damage, and we did just the front part of the roof that faces the street because that was where the wind was coming from, and they didn't do the backside.
So only half of the house was
Half.
done.
How much value, or how much your insurance company paid?
The insurance company paid $22,000.
Okay.
Do you want me to go through any of the other comparables to refresh your memories of anything?
Do you, sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you gave, ma'am, when you gave us the comparables just now, 749, 747, and 795, did that include the land value too, or just the structure?
The land value too.
Okay, thank you.
You had, when you purchased this, was it just a bare lot
Yes.
when you purchased it? And you paid $106,500 for it? Does that
Sounds
sound
right.
right? So the land, the assessors increased that by a little under
$20,000.
$20,000. I mean, are you thinking that your land hasn't went up that much in value, or you're contesting the actual land
My
value?
house hasn't gone up in value.
No, I'm talking about the land part, though.
I thought that was expensive land to begin with.
Okay.
And I guess we could look at other lands to see how they've gone up in price.
We just have to separate it out if we're gonna
Oh, okay.
make changes. And it was not reduced at local boards, is that correct?
That is correct.
And did they give you any reasoning for that? No?
I don't recall the reason. They just made no change to the assessment.
Carla, question, if I may. Of the comps that they provided, is there anything in those that you found to be inaccurate in using against their home?
The only thing I didn't see is the, whether it's being graded or quality of construction was similar. I wasn't able to determine that through the information that was
Okay.
supplied. I mean, square footage, whirlpool tub, I mean, in the big picture of it, the costing for a whirlpool tub in our cost valuation system is around $1,200. So it's very minimal for the costing
And
part of it, but
Could you confirm that the numbers that they gave us of what those homes are assessed at are actually what they're assessed at? So I've had that happen in the past where they use old assessment numbers. I'm not saying it, but I just would like to
no,
verify
I
that.
see that when she was using her information, it was from the Beacon.
Correct.
So it is current.
Oh, so you typed that in? You don't have the Beacon number?
That's from the Beacon number. I double checked them. You can check
So
them
just
again.
for sake of
Sure.
answering commission question, would you give me the first parcel number that you are using?
I can give you the address, may I?
It's on this
Okay.
page.
Or is it on this? Sorry, I'm getting kind of messed up here.
Oh, you're doing great, man.
Right there. That's a parcel number.
You're the
Okay.
last one we have.
Plenty of
Thank you.
time.
So that would be the parcel right here.
While we're waiting, Mr. and Mrs. Ruff, could I ask you a question? If you were gonna put your house on the market today, what would you list it at?
I don't know. We never planned on putting our house on the market.
Fair
I
enough.
think,
They're
Okay.
accurate.
The first one I
Thank you.
checked is accurate,
Was that the 744 one, or is that the 795 one?
$795. The
Okay.
house right next door to him sold for $1.1 million.
Yeah, sales, I always go back to what they're equalized against similar properties. so.
I would like to see what the Heather Ridge, what those properties are selling for right in that general area.
people
I
aren't
mean, I
selling
think
their
that's a true-
homes
Yeah, they,
in Heather Ridge because their taxes aren't that high and they're planning on staying there. Where we live, people are coming and going like you wouldn't believe.
Uh,
And the assessed value for that property that I just showed her was on Heather Ridge, and it was 747,000.
Carla, you said that when you factor in a whirlpool, at least for county factoring purposes, you only get $1,200 of increased value out of
I
it?
mean, I can tell you the exact cost if you want me to.
Well, I'm just,
It's,
You know.
it's between $600 and $1,200, and then the grade multiplier would come into effect on it, but it's straight. I mean, a bathroom, an average cost for a bathroom is about $2,400 because we just include the plumbing fixtures. So that whirlpool tub that you are indicating, we're just indicating that there's more jets in that tub. So the valuation between this tub and a whirlpool tub is about $1,200.
yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I get it for county planning purposes. I know what the Whirlpool guys are asking for whirlpools right now are ridiculous. They're like, first of all, they're on back order, and second of all, they're like 15,000 plus.
Can
What-
I?
What I,
Go
oh,
ahead.
Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Well, I have a motion that I would like somebody to make in my mind, but I'm not making it since I'm chairing the meeting.
Before you make a motion, may I say something?
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that when you take all of the assessments of my comparables together, the average of the three comparable proposed assessments is $764,000.
Thank you
That's-
for that. The motion that I had in mind that I was gonna ask the commission to make was to keep the land at 125,730 and to put the structures and improvements at 748,159 for a total of 873,889.
You came in below me, Madam Chair, but I'll make the motion, as you stated it.
I'll second that.
All right, I've got a
And then-
motion and a second.
And then I just have to get this out, Madam Chair. I cannot believe that, I think it is that third property where they have the Four Seasons room on it. Look, I know how much it costs to build a Four Seasons room.
In
They're
2021.
ridiculous, and that a $795,000 house with a Four Seasons room, and I think I know who built that one,
On twice the property,
right?
0.8.
That is a incredible upgrade to a property. So I'm very surprised that that property is only valued at $795 yet, but I'm sure there's more to the story.
In that Heather Ridge edition, I just pulled up the property sales map. Sales are going from 550 to 749. They're nowhere near the $1 million range that the neighborhood, that the appellant is in. And that's a consideration for us. You know, we check to see comparable properties, same location.
Well, just also say this. I see the pictures here. I think you guys have a very nice house. I think you put a lot of work into it. I think you take a lot of pride into it. It's a very beautiful looking home. So thank you for keeping your neighborhood looking good. I probably would have came in higher than the chair, just given the fact I'm familiar with your neighborhood. But, you know, I stand by my motion, so.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
If not, Sherry, will you call?
Madam Chair, I think.
We've closed testimony,
Okay,
ma'am.
very good.
Any further discussion amongst the board? All right, Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Poppins? Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Did we get a notice in the mail or anything, or?
You'll have it within the next week.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I consider a motion to recess as County Board of Equalization.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 You can pick whichever way you'd want to place it.